All right, let's dive into a moment that truly changed everything for India's freedom struggle, the partition of Bengal. Now, this was so much more than just, redrawing some boundaries on a map. This was an event that lit a fire across the nation, and really, it shaped the entire future of the subcontinent.
It's a heck of a question, right? Because the story of the Bengal partition is really about how one single line, just a bureaucratic decision, could become this massive flashpoint. We're talking about national identity, unity, and a truly unprecedented uprising against the British Empire. And there it is. That's the line that's at the very heart of our story. So back in 1905, the British viceroy, a guy named Lord Curzon, he's the one who pushes through this plan to just split the massive Bengal province in two. So you have to ask, what was really going on behind this supposedly simple administrative move? So, to really get why this caused such a firestorm, we've got to peel back the layers. Let's look past the official story and get to the hidden agenda. And while the contrast here is just it's night and day. Officially, the British line was, hey, Bengal has 78 million people. That's just way too big for us to govern efficiently. But the real motive? Oh, that was the oldest trick in the imperial playbook, divide and rule. You see, Bengal was the brain, the political heart of Indian nationalism, and the British knew they had to break it up to weaken the whole movement.
And it's how they drew that line that's so crucial. They carved out this new province, Eastern Bengal and Assam, and made sure it had a Muslim majority. Meanwhile, in what was left of Bengal, they made it so that Bengali Hindus were suddenly a minority, surrounded by people who spoke Hindi and Oriya. This was no accident. It was a completely calculated move designed to shatter the influence of the Bengali community.
And if you're looking for the smoking gun, well, here it is, straight from the horse's mouth. This quote from Herbert Risley, one of the top officials at the time, just lays the whole strategy bare. He flat out says it. This wasn't about administration. It was about destroying the unity that the British were so afraid of.
But here's the beautiful irony. Instead of crushing nationalism, the partition did the exact opposite. It backfired, big time. It ignited a passion for unity like never before and gave birth to one of the most powerful movements in India's history, the Swadeshi movement. And the reaction was immediate. I mean, we're talking incredibly fast. The plan gets announced in July, and just a few weeks later, boom, a massive public meeting in Calcutta calls for a total boycott of British goods. And then, on October 16th, the day the partition actually happens, nobody's celebrating. The entire province observes it as a day of national mourning.
And this wasn't just a few angry politicians. No way. This was a true mass movement. We're talking about people from every single walk of life. Students, workers, men, women, Hindus, Muslims, everyone came together. And this incredible display of unity, it absolutely stunned the British. They just didn't see it coming.
So how did they do it? Well, the movement was basically built on three really powerful ideas. First up, boycott. This was a direct hit to the wallet of the British Empire. Second, Swadeshi. This literally means of one's own country, and it was all about building up India's own economy, promoting Indian-made goods. And the third pillar, national education. The idea was to stop sending kids to British schools and build their own, free from that colonial influence. And on the very day the partition became official, the legendary poet Rabindranath Tagore did something just beautiful and incredibly powerful. He called for Rakhi Bandhan. Imagine this, people pouring into the streets, tying these sacred threads, these Rakhis, on the wrists of complete strangers. Hindus tying them on Muslims, Muslims on Hindus. It was this profound visual symbol of their unbreakable unity. Now, what's so amazing about the Swadeshi movement is that it wasn't just about protesting against something. It was about building something new. It unleashed this incredible wave of creative, constructive energy, all aimed at forging a new, self-reliant India from the ground up. And that call for self-reliance, it sparked a genuine renaissance both culturally and economically. You had this explosion of patriotic songs, plays, and articles. A whole new school of Indian art was born, totally free from Western influence. And, maybe most importantly, people started building the actual infrastructure for a new India. We're talking about 62 new high schools, 3,000 primary schools, plus new Indian-owned textile mills, banks, insurance companies, you name it. And this painting right here, this is Bangamata, or Mother Bengal. It just perfectly captures the spirit of the time. You see this serene, divine mother figure, and she's offering the gifts of Indian civilization: food, clothing, knowledge. It was such a powerful image that it eventually got renamed Bharat Mata, Mother India, and became a symbol for the entire nation. Of course, all this incredible energy needed direction, and it got it from some truly visionary leaders. You had people like Sister Nivedita, who was actually an Irish woman, a disciple of Swami Vivekananda, and of course the legendary nationalist trio, Lal Bal Pal. These were the people who were instrumental in taking the Swadeshi message out of Bengal and making it a pan-India movement. So, after 6 long years of intense struggle, the movement actually won. They achieved their main goal. But it wasn't a simple victory. It came at a price, and the consequences of this period would send ripples through Indian history for decades. The British saw this incredible unity, and they realized their old plan wasn't working. So they shifted their strategy. They thought if you can't defeat the movement head-on, then divide it. They started to deliberately fan the flames of communal tension, promising special political favors to the Muslim community, all in an attempt to pull them away from the nationalist cause and basically break the movement from the inside. And a direct result of that new British policy was the creation of the All India Muslim League in 1906. And if you look at their founding goals, it's pretty clear what was happening. They aimed to promote loyalty to the British and to argue for Muslim interests completely separately from the main Indian National Congress. What this did, effectively, was create a whole separate political track based on religion. And that division didn't stay just an idea for long. Just 3 years later, it was literally written into law with something called the Morley-Minto Reforms. This introduced a concept of separate electorates. It meant that from then on, Muslims would only vote for Muslim candidates in their own special constituencies. This was a huge deal. It was a move that essentially hardwired religious division right into India's political DNA.
But all this time, the pressure from the Swadeshi movement just never let up. It was relentless. For 6 straight years, the protests continued, and it was taking a serious toll on the British administration. And then, finally, in 1911, something had to give. And it did. The partition was reversed. It was a huge, massive victory for the people's movement. Bengal was reunited. But there was a catch. The British kind of gave with one hand and took away with the other. In the very same announcement, they declared that they were moving the capital of India away from Calcutta, the heart of the rebellion, all the way to Delhi. It was a purely symbolic move to distance the seat of their power from the center of all this nationalist fire. So when you look back, what's the real legacy of this incredible chapter? Well, for one, the Swadeshi movement proved, without a doubt, that mass protests could actually force the British Empire to back down. It literally created the playbook of boycotts and self-reliance that Gandhi would later use to win independence. It kick-started Indian industry. But there was a darker side. It left a scar. That divide and rule strategy had worked, in a way. It planted the seeds of communal politics that would grow and lead to some truly tragic consequences down the road. And that leaves us with a big, lingering question. The line on the map, the one from 1905, it was erased in 1911. But what about the other lines, the political and social divisions that the British had so carefully drawn between communities? Were those ever truly healed? That's a question that, honestly, still echoes across the subcontinent even today.